I'm 16 years old. I'm at City Hall with my younger sister, Roz, and I'm there for my birth certificate so that I can get my driver's permit, and I am psyched. I'm pretty excited about the idea of driving. So I tell the woman behind the counter, Susan Birke, B-I-R-K-E, and before I can even tell her my birth date, she says, "Oh, honey, I know your family, and that's not your name." And I think, I'm 16. I've lived with this for a long time. I think I know it's my name. She said, "It has a Z in it." And I think, oh, well, maybe they spelled Susan with a Z because my parents are Holocaust survivors. English was their fourth language, and they spelled, may we say, creatively. So she hands me back a piece of paper, a little white piece of paper, and she's right. It has a Z on it. It says S-Z-I-F-R-A, R. Birke, B-I-R-K-E. We are the only B-I-R-K-Es in Lowell, and it's June 28th, 1950. This must be me. But this is a me I have never seen before. Walking back to my parents' clothing store, my sister and I are like, Szifra, Zifra, Szifra, Zyfra, unintelligible, until my sister breaks out in hysterical laughter and says, "Oh my God, Sue, they named you Szifra." I'm 16, I'm a cheerleader. I just want to be normal. I just want to be Susan Birke. It wasn't a great name, no frills, no fuss, but it worked just fine. Now, I find out that I am going to be Szifra. Szifra is my Hebrew name. When you're a Jew, you get a Hebrew name. You don't do anything with your Hebrew name. You just have it. We get back to my parents' store. I show them this piece of paper. I am melting down near tears. They ignore me. They start this volley back and forth, or as my dad would say, forth and back. So, Sala, was is this rar? I thought we named her Szifra Leah. Yeah, I thought we did too. I think I figured it out. I think we named her Ruchel. Ruchel. What does that sound like? Vomit, right? Ruchel. 25 minutes ago, I'm Susan Birke. No middle initial, no nothing. I'm just Susan Birke. Now, 25 minutes later, I am 16 years old and Lowell, Massachusetts, and I'm Szifra Ruchel Birke. That night, I'm like, so where did the Susan come from then, all these years? Well, a customer. We was calling you Szifra. A customer told us it's not a good name in America. We say, what should we call her? They tell us a good American name is Susan. So we called you Susan. I guess we forgot. Between that moment and going to BU, to college, I'm back and forth, or forth and back, about, do I go as Szifra? Do I go as Susan? Do I go as, what do I do here? And I decide to take the plunge and go to BU as Szifra. I tell people my name is Szifra when they ask, and they call me Szifra because I just told them that was my name. On the home front, my 8-year-old brother is deciding to be a big ally, and he tells people, my friends when they call, we don't have a Sue or Susan who lives in our home, but we do have a Szifra if you would like to speak with her. I'm 30, living in Indiana, a couple of sons. People ask me about my name. I tell them the truth. Szifra was an Egyptian nursemaid. I tell them the half-truth. She was an Egyptian nursemaid, but I don't tell them the Jewish part of the story. I'm 50 years old with my mom sitting at her table, and my very stoic mom is staring at me very intently with tears in her eyes. My mother doesn't have tears in her eyes very often. I ask, like, so is everything okay? Yeah, Shif, everything's okay. It doesn't look like everything's okay. Well, I'm just thinking, looking at you, you look just like my mother. Well, I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing, because my mother's mother, Szifra, and her father, and her brothers, and her sister, and the rest of the family were exterminated in the Holocaust, like my dad's family. So I decide to ask her, is this hard? And she says, well, yeah, it's hard, but it's a good hard, because I loved my mother. I loved her so much. And when I look at you, I see my mother, and I get to see her close and be close to her. I'm so glad we named you Szifra. And I'm so glad you named me Szifra too. It's been 51 years since that moment when I would have done anything to be the cheerleader Susan Birke. Today, when people ask me about my name, which you can imagine happens regularly as Z-I-F-R-A, Szifra, I tell them the whole story. I tell them that Szifra was one of the two very brave Egyptian nursemaids who refused to obey the Pharaoh's orders to kill the Jewish boys, the Jewish boy infants. That Szifra was my grandmother's name, and she was killed in the Holocaust. I tell them all sorts of things about my name, including the Jewish part of the story. I was too nervous at 30 to tell the Jewish part of the story and to talk about my name. Today, I couldn't be more proud, more honored to be able to share my name and to share this story for all the Szifras and all the Ruchels and all of the Lasers and Chaims and all of the people who couldn't tell their own story because they didn't survive to tell it. Thank you.